Welcome back to the Who's Yanks. We have another Who's Yanks. We're talking Canada soccer and U.S. soccer. The video is finally here of the U.S. women's national team's roster breakdown for their upcoming games. By the way, their next two games are September 3rd, this Saturday at Children's Mercy Park in Kansas City against Nigeria. Both games will be against Nigeria. And September 6th in Washington, D.C. at Audi Field against Nigeria as well. Should be a good couple of games to come on, so those are right before, I believe, Canada plays earlier, but the USA plays later. So I'll be keeping an eye on both those teams. But today's all about the USA. And, yeah, Nigeria is your opponent that they'll be playing against. And for the roster news, we do have roster news, so I'm kind of glad I did wait to reduce this video, as we have Mace replaces Kelly O'Hara, as something's going on with Kelly O'Hara, but there's more information. But just for our record, we're going over the name, so looks like we'll have a new name to talk about, Mace, and that's going to be interesting one to cover. But yeah, those two announcements, and as you can see, we're in a new room for a little bit, back home originally, and we'll be doing a couple videos from here in the home room before we go back to the apartment in Toronto. But yeah, this is where we're going to be for the next couple of games. We'll be covering both Canada's game against Australia on Saturday, really early, 12:35 in the morning. Though I might not do a video reaction until that afternoon, because that is a late game for me. And yeah, anyone who's on the Eastern time zone can tell you how late that's going to end. Nor do I want to. It's going to take forever to wake up or make this video. It's going to take forever to process it. So yeah, that video is actually going to come after that. But nonetheless, today is all about the U.S. women's national team's camp roster and who they're going to be seeing in the next couple of games, hopefully. One of them which being this Saturday, and the other one being a couple of days later. So without further ado, here's your U.S. training camp September roster. So with our goalkeepers, we have Aubrey Kingsbury, Casey Murphy, and Alyssa Nair. Nothing really new here to see. The typical three keepers, and by the way, should I mention the USA's game? This is part of the training for the Olympics and World Cup qualifying. Obviously, World Cup qualifying will become first, as the Olympics is not until 2024. But World Cup is next year, not World Cup qualifying. If I was saying World Cup qualifying, come on. But World Cup itself, Australia, New Zealand next year. Women's World Cup, US is in it. So is Canada. But USA will be preparing. These two games will be part of their prep, as well as even continuing the transition from old to new and making sure other players get playing time. So in the keepers, pretty much same. Alyssa Nair, Casey Murphy, and Aubrey Kingsbury. We might see a little bit of Aubrey Kingsbury get some playing time, but we'll have to keep an eye on that. But pretty much nothing really new to see there. We know those names. And onto our defenders, we have Alana Cook, Emily Fox, Naomi Germa, Sofia Huerta, Kelly O'Hara, and Becky Sauerbrunn. Same thing. Your typical names here. We've seen them before. Nothing really new here. Make sure if I go back to the roster replacement, so O'Hara was a defender. So by the way, Kelly O'Hara will be replaced by, once again, Mace will be replacing Kelly O'Hara. So we do have a new name here. Mace, I don't know a lot about Mace, but it will be interesting to see if she can get some playing time. And I get to learn her playing style if she gets some minutes in Nigeria. So we'll see about that. But other than Mace, really none of the new names here to cover. And then on to our midfields, we have Sam Coffey, who I think is new. I don't remember her. Lindsay Haran, Taylor Koniak, who we did. She is still relatively new, but she actually scored one of the goal already. Rose Lavelle, Christy Mewis, Ashley Sanchez, and Andy Sullivan. Sam Coffey is a name on this list I'm unsure about, and I'm really looking forward to seeing if she gets minutes, hopefully, and see how she plays the whole 9 yards. And it should be interesting. It should be an interesting one to see. But nonetheless, we do have our typical names here, the veterans, Andy Sullivan, Ashley Sanchez, Christy Mewis. Your typical names here, nothing really stands out other than Coffey's name, but interesting to see what this is. And once again, this is part of the training for the World Cup, and should be interesting. Then to our forwards, we have Ashley Hatch, which we know she had a good game against Australia. Alex Morgan, Mallory Pugh, Midge Purse, Megan Rapinoe, by the way, welcome back. Trinity Rodman, and Sophia Smith. So other than that, we've seen all these names before, and yeah, for the most part, it's names that we've seen from CONCACAF against Canada and all the other CONCACAF opponents. But nonetheless, they're here, and we all know that Vlatko Andonovski thinks that they are here to stay. So these names, nonetheless, will be given game time. Majority of these names that we know will be playing against Nigeria, and it should be a fun one. But nonetheless, here's your game reminders again if you need it. September 3rd in Kansas City, Kansas. Children's Mercy Park, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, covered by Fox if you're in the U.S. I'm pretty sure in Canada you can follow it another way. Maybe you can stream it. Or if you have a subscription somewhere, you can follow it. They play in Kansas City against Nigeria. And then September 6th, also against Nigeria. Washington, D.C., Audi Field, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This one in the U.S. will be covered by ESPN2. But as I said, we will, for the Canada video and the U.S. video, will be covering both their games in this room before we head back on September, to do the games in September 6th back in Toronto. So the games will be covered here, and then we will be heading back. But nonetheless, that's your roster, and as I said, nothing really new really sticks out, and it's going to be an interesting one to see who gets played. And as I said, that game is in Saturday, so we've got a few days, a couple of days now actually, to really see what the USA can muster together in Vlatko Andonovski, what he can put together for this preparation for this big World Cup upcoming year. And can the U.S. hold on to their throne? Can they get a 5th star? They've got 4. Can they go for 5? We'll have to see and find out how they play. But this Nigeria should be a really good test. They have a pretty good team. And as I said, I think in the Canada video, I think I identified what Canada needs to work on as a women's team. But the U.S., I would say, just once again, working how to break down low blocks. Because we saw in CONCACAF, Canada played a relatively low block. Canada played off the counterattack, but you had some teams in the CONCACAF that played off low blocks. And that's really, right now, the U.S.'s Achilles heel. It's gotten a lot better, but it still needs improvement in terms of the World Cup. So playing out of a low block, learning how to break down the defense of the opponent when they play basically a bomb shelter bunker defense, that's going to be a challenge for the USA. It always has, but hey, that's what's going to happen if you're you're a strong team. Other teams that don't want to concede, they want to keep the score close, they're going to play a bunker block defense. So it's just something you're going to have to get used to doing if you're the USA, especially if you're one of the top teams in the world. Canada, to an extent, too. But yeah, the USA is going to have to just continue to work down, breaking down opponent low block, which, as I said, against Uzbekistan, they tried it, but it obviously didn't go. It obviously didn't really test the U.S. as that was both 9-1 and 8-0, I believe. But hopefully Nigeria's low block can kind of favor a little bit like Jamaica's low block too. A little bit, but we'll have to see how well they play it. As I think, if I can recall, they're one of the teams that played really well. Last time they played each other in Q2 Stadium in Austin, Texas. It was a pretty darn good game. I think it was only 2-0 for the USA. So, and then in Houston as well. Nigeria played the low block really well. If you recall both those games in Houston and Austin, they kept the score close, and it wasn't a blowout. And I don't think this next 2 games are going to be a blowout either. I think the USA is going to win maybe 2-0 minimum, but anything can happen, and we just got to keep an eye out for that. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the U.S. plays against Nigeria, how they break down the low block, and they be successful. How much will Nigeria actually trouble the U.S.? Hey, it can go the other way. Nigeria can trouble the U.S., and the USA could actually be tested and having to scramble to find themselves a goal, or having to break down the Nigerian defense once again. So things can always flip on the flip of the script. So we'll see what these 2 games have in store for us for the U.S. and the U.S. women's national team, I should say. But for now, that is it. That's the only thing I really want to see the U.S. work on is how do you continue to break down opponents' low blocks. Pretty much the only thing I could see the USA working on. But if you like this video, make sure you like, share, subscribe. Subscribe. I can't even speak right now. Holy crap. But yeah, like, share, subscribe. Tell your friends about it. Forward the video. Do whatever you want. If you want to share it. Bell notification. That way when any videos uploaded, posted. This one's a little shorter, and Unfortunately, I mean, I am a little tired. I don't know if you guys can see that in the eyes, but I did my best to try and hurry up. Especially this is super, super late, and this should have been out days ago. And so I was really dragging my feet with this video, but hopefully I finally covered it. And next up will be the game. Will be Canada first because they play at 12:35 in the morning against Australia, so it's going to be a late one. And then the U.S. plays in that afternoon on that day. So Canada first, and then the USA will be covered afterwards. But nonetheless, there will be 2 more games covered in this room. So I hope you guys enjoy that. And yeah, tell all your friends. We'll see how Nigeria can test the USA.